Pick up a Chrysler 300C Luxury with leather interior, advanced safety technologies and 20-inch alloys for just $48K drive away. This is 5AA Breakfast.
Morning all, 6:36, very shortly across the ditch with Selwyn Manning, but in the meantime, a little bit more news on Mr. Kyrgios, David.
Yeah, look, he's walked out onto centre court in Montreal where he's playing the second of his matches. This is obviously after yesterday where he made that pretty ordinary sledge against Stan Wawrinka. He's playing John Isner, who is number 12 in the world. Probably not the best-known tennis player, but what's happened is as they have both walked onto the court, John Isner must be thinking this is the best day of his life because the Canadians are cheering like mad for John Isner.
They're going, Isner.
Yeah. But they've all stood up and booed Kyrgios. He is just getting booed by pretty much the entire crowd are just giving it to him. And the tennis governing body has just confirmed the amount of the fine for Kyrgios' sledge yesterday, $13,500, which is probably loose change, I guess, if you're a tennis player. We've got a lot of texts about this, and we'll get to them later in the show, because now it is time to head across the ditch to talk to our good friend Selwyn Manning. Now, and Selwyn obviously is the editor of EveningReport.nz, and we talk to him every Friday. Selwyn, thanks for your time, mate. We always love talking to you. Now, the biggie for us and you guys this weekend, obviously, is part 2 of the All Blacks versus the Wallabies. But before we get to that, there's quite a big business story in New Zealand where one of the government's state-owned enterprises, Solid Energy, has gone into administration.
Yeah, that's right. The move comes, Dave, after a collapse of those, global coal prices. You guys would know a lot about that, and also the poor governance decisions around Solid Energy. Solid Energy was once the poster company of the profitable state-owned enterprises, but not anymore. Yesterday, the Finance Minister, Bill English, he basically said that the drop in the price of coal down from $320 per tonne, that's US dollars, of course, in 2011, to around $85 US dollars per tonne now, means that there's no prospect of Solid Energy being in a position to repay or refinance its bank debts. Now, in the last 3 years, Solid Energy has accumulated a mountain of debt, David, and topping out at around $305 million, and that's despite the government topping it up with taxpayer funds of $250 million. So they've pulled they've pulled it out. They've put it into voluntary administration. That gives about 5 weeks breathing space for the miners, the workers. Then the creditors will meet and they will decide whether or not they will forego their loans to the company until about 2.5 years. And in that meantime, the company will be split up into what is profitable, what isn't, and sold off.
Geez, sounds like a mess.
Now, Selwyn, a good win for the Aussies, for the Wallabies last weekend, but there's almost like a rematch in Auckland tomorrow. Now, it's been a long time since the Wallabies had a win at Eden Park. It might depend on a Kiwi to help them to win there.
Well, that's the controversy, Jane. Yeah, it goes right back to... No, I don't want to lay it on too thick like I did to poor old Peter Godfrey yesterday, but 1986 was the last time the Wallabies beat the All Blacks at Eden Park. But, of course, it doesn't take a park to win a game. It takes the players. The All Blacks have been caned in New Zealand over the last week for losing in Sydney to you guys. All eyes at Eden Park are going to be on Quade Cooper. Now, Quade Cooper, he's the Wallaby fly half. He's a fantastic rugby player, but for the poor old Quade Cooper, he was born in Tokoroa, which is in central North Island town, a forestry town. Kiwis love to hate the guy because he's done so well in Australia in rugby terms. Now, he every time he's played in Eden Park in particular, he's basically choked before the crowd. The crowd just absolutely goes for him. So the word is over this side of the ditch, Jane, is that the Wallaby management team, they want to see whether or not Quade Cooper can stand up to that Eden Park crowd. If he can, then he's most likely going to be included in the World Cup squad, the Wallaby World Cup squad. If he doesn't, well, he won't. And Alan Jones is the former Wallaby coach. Alan Jones, his 29-year record will remain unbroken, meaning that the All Blacks will win again on Saturday.
Is there a view in New Zealand that because Quade Cooper was born in Tokoroa that he should be an All Black, that he shouldn't be playing for Australia, Selwyn?
Well, it's grown, this whole thing around him. It's grown from the point of view of, okay, he didn't quite make the All Blacks, but he did well over in Australia. And, the whole thing is it's a weird thing. It's one of those things where the Kiwis love the guy, but they love to hate him.
Yeah.
And, you see the guy on the park, he's impressive. He's a world-class athlete in his own right, and that's obviously why he's in the Wallaby team.
He's fit-looking. He's a very fit-looking guy.
Oh, he's a great player. And, the other thing that's interesting too, Dave and Jane, is that there's about 5 key All Blacks that this will be the last time they play in New Zealand. And big names like the captain, Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, they're all going over to the World Cup. But there's 5 of them, key players, and this will be the last time. So Eden Park game is going to be an absolute, one not to miss. You can't talk it up more than that.
No, it's funny because here in Adelaide, rugby union doesn't really have that big a following at all. But I know a lot of people, a lot of mates talking to them this week, they're suddenly getting into it, and I think it'll be quite a big thing tomorrow. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz, thanks very much for joining us, mate.
6:42 to the police media now, and let's have a chat to Senior Constable